has 10 billion in capital. What if I put, 10 billion of an altcoin backed by, I could have $100 million in capital. I could spin up Yo-Yo Coin and have 10 billion of Yo-Yo Coin. I could mint an NFT on it, and I could trade it to myself 3 times from 100,000 to 1 million to 10 million. I could print it all with basically wash trades. I could lever it up 20 to 1, have 25, 30, 40%, and then I could use it to back a stable coin, and the stable coin becomes 200 billion or 500 billion worth of US dollars. That's the nightmare scenario, right? Where you've got like nothing at the bottom. You've got a crypto punk that circulated 6 times in blind wash sales that was levered up to an altcoin, that was levered up to a stable coin that was released. And now that stuff gets into consumers' wallets and it gets used for commerce and it becomes a systemic risk. So you can't blame the regulators in that way when they say, we don't like the idea that there's blind wash trades with no surveillance agreements, and we don't like the idea that the stablecoin issuers don't meet our standards as banks. And, the crypto community will say, oh yeah, well that's like, that's the regulators attacking Bitcoin. There's nothing to do with Bitcoin, right? Like I saw today, some crypto punk thing traded for $10 million. Okay? But, if I sold it to myself 6 times, and I started by buying it for a nickel, how much is it worth? Who could say, right? There's no way to even figure out whether the person that owned the thing sold it to themselves. Like it used to be, my concern in an auction would be, you've got your best friend bidding on it. But we're much worse than that. We're at a point right now in cyberspace where you could spin up 100 versions of yourself, and you could be bidding against yourself, selling to yourself, buying from yourself. What's it worth? It's like, what do you want it to be worth? How do you know? It's opaque, right? So I think that these opaque markets are a challenge, and for the industry to grow up, you've got to go to the point where there's more transparency. Securities have transparency, banks have transparency, regulators have transparency. I think ultimately all this stuff has a huge impact on high velocity digital assets, right? Like NFTs and stuff like this, high velocity. Bitcoin, if you're holding it as digital property, properly understood, is low velocity. The whole idea of Bitcoin is I just buy it and I hold it like I own a building for 27 years. And if you're holding low velocity money for 27 years, right, then is that a threat to anybody? Not really. I mean, you kind of get to maybe at the end of the day, you'll get to a point where someone will be concerned about that capital moving out of a capital control environment. But it's like so far down the list of regulatory priorities compared to all these other things like rigged auctions, and hyper levered, self-dealing, that I think that it's almost like not even worth being on the radar right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of Bitcoiners worry noises from the regulators, but I think it is far more concerning for these other projects and shady dealings. Moving on a little bit to the Sailor strategy. What do you think of the Sailor strategy? Well, first of all, what do you think about the El Salvador situation in general? And also, what do you think about the volcano bond that they're issuing? It is kind of the application of the Sailor strategy to the sovereign level. Does that kind of make you revise your analysis of the dollar and Bitcoin? Because, I mean, they are essentially doing the same thing. They're issuing $1 billion of bonds, and then they're using half of that at least to buy Bitcoin. This podcast is also brought to you by the Bitcoin Way. your professional Bitcoin IT team, offering you personalized, secure, and comprehensive solutions for every step along your Bitcoin journey. The Bitcoin Way offers live concierge service to guide you with your Bitcoin cold storage, running your node, privacy best practices, inheritance planning, corporate strategy, and multi-sig solutions. They don't touch your coins, they guide you.
You know, my view would be you should issue $1 billion of bonds and buy $1 billion of Bitcoin. My strategy is very simple and orthodox, which is buy Bitcoin with cash.
Yeah, they're doing $500 million on infrastructure and stuff, which is
that just makes it sovereign debt. So
yeah,
sovereign debt. Yeah.
It's,
so I don't
it's
have
50%
an opinion.
sovereign debt.
Like the truth of the matter, I don't have an opinion on that, and I wouldn't by everyone that happens to have Bitcoin attached to it, right? It's like you're asking me about the business plan of a Bitcoin miner. Well, would I buy the Bitcoin mining stock? Some yes, some no. But you've moved into the realm of securities, right? If you pick,